All right. Good evening. Hello, Retail Refuge. Good to see you. Hero. Sleepy girl made it. Who else we got? Hello, Adria. Good evening. Blame Tag, where you at? You said you was off tonight. Where are you? So we're going to try out new internet stuff tonight, and we're going to see if that fixes all the problems from the past few streams. And if it doesn't, I will know it is a restream. Oh, nope. I know I said that and about it just being YouTube, but since I got new internet today, we're going to try it out. So we're going to see what goes on. Hero says the power of coffee compels me. Nice. And Adria says she has her cocktail ready, so that's nice too. Let's see what we got here. Blame Tag, you out there? Paging Blame Tag. Test. Nope, he's not here yet. So tonight, the OG, the Irish Connection. Say hello.
Hello, everyone.
So this is going to be one of those nights like, any other Monday night. We just hanging out and chilling. But tonight you get to ask Irish questions and we'll get to them. And then we run out of questions. We'll just talk about random retail and grocery and service industry bullshit. So for anybody that may stumble upon this, what the Retail Therapy Sessions is, very reminiscent of old school AOL chat rooms. So if you're pissed off about, your job, you're pissed off about your boss, you're pissed off about your coworkers, whatever it is, come here, spill it out, and we'll all just chat it up. So nothing really, mind blowing, but it's just a place for everybody to come blow off steam. I posted a thing about the complaint box that will get incorporated into this next week. So what that is when you see it, there he is. Hey, Blame Tag. When you see that pop up, it's kind of like the question of the week, but it's a chance for you to vent about something that's going on with you or your job or something you've seen that pisses you off or whatnot. And we just go from there, because like I said, the whole part of this being therapy is talk it out, right? And one thing I do want to talk about real quick before we get too far into this. Blame Tag, you're going to love this one. So let me see if I can find the article real quick. This was crazy. I've never seen anything like this in all my time in retail. It involves Dollar General and the state of Ohio. So let's see here. Let's see if I can find this. There was a restraining order put out on Dollar General today because how their pricing has worked. Let's see here. Give me a second. I should have had this ready. Oh, there it is. Restraining order. So this is from retaildive.com. Restraining order sought against Dollar General over Ohio price discrepancies. I don't know. No, that's not going to show that. But anyway, so they have filed a restraining order against them, and the request seeks to force Dollar General to stop advertising one price on the shelf, but repeatedly charging another, usually a higher price, at the register when customers check out. And under Ohio law, stores may have a 2% error rate on overcharges. However, when they were inspected in Butler County in October, the pricing error rates ranging from 16.7% to 88.2%. That's some nonsense. Just nonsense. So Dollar General has a restraining order out on them in Ohio. So there you go. So anyway, ask Irish questions. Irish, how you been? Tell everybody what you got going on.
Not too bad. Well, look, kicked off January to a wonderful start with a system meltdown in my stores. I run two different locations for the same company, and on the first day back, our one of our checkouts, the only checkout in the bloody thing, that just went kaput, uh, and had to deal with that for a few days. And then this morning, when I went in the other store, the same thing happened. It's like planned obsolescence. So they must have selected January 23 for these things to go kaput because they both did in two separate stores. So that is exactly what I've been dealing with the last few days.
So wait a minute. Have you always ran two locations, or is that kind of recent?
No, that's I mean in the last couple of years, yes, ever since 2018.
Do you get paid to run two stores?
I do. It's not quite double, but
No,
I
we
guess
should be double.
I know. Yeah.
Oh, by the way,
Um,
I meant to tell you. Last night I made a roast and I
mhm.
made mashed potatoes, and the mashed potatoes called for two full sticks of butter, and I used Kerrygold salted butter.
It is, in fairness, I'll give it that. It's damn good butter. The Irish dairy industry is second to none. It's cattle grass fed year round, so there's no chemicals, no nonsense. It rains here a lot, so we've
Yeah.
got grass growing all the time. And to blame tag, yes, as a matter of fact, I am because my heating system no longer works since I had that bloody fire in my property about a month ago.
Ooh,
So yes,
explain that because other unless you messaged other people, I think I'm the only one that knew what happened.
oh right, yeah, probably. Well, no one really knows, but my uh, we came back. If you remember the football World Cup or soccer as you call it was on, and we came back to try and catch one of the games, and we went into the kitchen, and I saw what I thought was Christmas lights out the back. My wife just screamed, "There's a fire!" And I just looked, and my neighbor's shed was on fire, and my neighbor was not home, which is perplexing. And so that took my shed and my oil tank and his oil tank with it. Thankfully, I had no oil in the damn tank because I work retail and can't afford it.
Right.
So that was a weird bonus. But yeah, the damn thing went up really quick. Within like 5 minutes, the whole thing was fucked. So since then, we've just been wearing a lot of sweaters and blankets in the house because there's no other heating system.
Right.
So
Now you
I,
guys set up with those tanks. Are they up on like four legs? Is it like a harness where like the tank actually sits in like a
yeah.
contraption where it's just there?
Yeah, it's usually away from like residence, which this one was. It was in my backyard, and it sits on like concrete plinths. So it's to be honest with you, like there's like there's they just don't go on fire. It's a really bizarre thing. No one really knows how it happens. The fire department don't know. The fire department called the police to rule out arson. That's how confused they were.
Oh wow.
Now I know I pissed off some customers in my time, but I'm not sure if any of them know where I live. Uh, but hey, you just don't know. So every now and again, you could actually, you could get oh God, who's this idiot?
Did you see it?
Uh,
I've already deleted
yeah,
it. Yeah.
there's
Something.
a bit of a lag here. I'm about
You
10
there is
seconds
a
behind
lag.
watching the stream.
I'm looking at
Yeah,
the other screen. It's like, hi, I want. Oh, it's gone now. It's like I want to offer you promotion. What the fuck ever. It's like I got an email today
wrong
on.
channel, dude.
Yeah, this is hilarious. All right. So you think about what we talk about, and you look at me and whatnot. I get this damn email from through Facebook from somebody who promotes some jewelry company, and they're like, "Oh, we'd love to work with you to help promote our product for free jewels." I'm like, "What? No, no. That can't be real. It's got to be a scam. You obviously aren't paying attention because there's no jewels that we sell here." Um, so Adria asked, and she's probably unfamiliar because she's fairly new. What type of retail are you in, Irish grocery, etc.?
All right. In the well, I've I've only flirted with grocery really. I've been in stores where that were predominantly grocery, but I've always been in the textile side of things. Um, And that honestly was more like by accident than choice. Really, it's just where I started, and I bounced around from big box, small box, mom and pop, everything over the last like 20ish years. And I am in the last 6 or 7 years, I have been in what we call charity retail. You call thrift stores. So there's a rather large thrift store operation here that I'm involved in basically. Uh, and that's where I've been for the last about 6 years, 7 years.
I have to tell you, as far as that business goes, because I'm familiar with the Facebook page, right? So
Yes.
what I see when you're posting pictures, good evening, Karen. Um, the one thing I've noticed is the amount of care that people have taken of like when you post the pictures of like the furniture and stuff.
Mm,
I mean, it's like good quality. I mean,
yeah.
and it makes me think of like this is kind of a weird aside, Japan. And the reason I say
Hmm.
that is because I went on this whole spree where I was collecting Japanese Nintendo consoles, and they take such good care of their stuff. When I received it, I've got merchandise that's like 15, 20 years old that looks perfect because they just took care of it. And that's what I've seen in the pictures that you've shown, because the thrift stores here, shit. You got like dining room tables with shit carved on them and all sorts of stuff, whereas all the stuff you guys seem to get is like really well cared for.
But it's all the stuff we put on the Facebook page is cared for. Um,
Well,
uh,
but then again, there was dildos. So
yeah, oh, yeah, there was those too. I mean, it's the nature of well, look, thrift stores are kind of strange because I had my eye on thrift stores for a while for selfish reasons. They operate on a essentially 9 to 5 basis, and that
right,
in retail is like fucking gold.
yes, it
I was
is.
like, right, if now they don't pay very well. In fact, I took a substantial pay cut to get the job. But you know what? It was something that I was willing to do at the time because we had a very young kid at the time when I got the job, and I didn't want to be on the road or like as you know, for a long time I was a fixer, so I was constantly being shifted from store to store to store, and I was in like an hour away one day, 2 hours away the next day, and so on, and I just didn't want to do that anymore. So I had my eye on thrift stores for a while, but I mean, most of retail is applicable to thrift stores, but there was one key thing that thrift stores have that all of the retail can rely on, thrift stores can't, is that their supply. Your supply is completely and utterly random. You do not have any control over it.
Right.
Um, Now, in an ideal world, if you actually bunch them together and organize it yeah, in some sort of fashion, you could actually kind of share resources. But that, generally speaking, doesn't happen yet. But that can be interesting. And there's a couple of funny quirks that I noticed when I first started there. Men's clothing. Okay. Now, there's nothing unusual about it in terms of like the proportion of sales it takes up. It's exactly the same as you would expect in any other retail. However, the donations that we can select through for men's stuff, about 85% of it will be terrible. Like it's
Wow.
absolutely useless. Now, this was just something that bothered me. I couldn't figure it out why it was. I thought it was my donations at first, and it turns out it's pretty universal. Well, the reason being is because men are lazy, and they will wear things until they're forced by their significant other to throw them out, essentially. So most of the donations we actually get are things that were perhaps gifts, wrong size, or their wife donates it behind their back kind of thing. The men's stuff just is pretty bad, and there's a couple of little quirks like that in thrift store retail. It's interesting.
Wow.
Well, some of it.
Hero says, as far as furniture goes, she says, here there would be 3 chairs instead of four. One has a corner chewed off, and the table has one stick replacing a leg.
Hmm.
That's pretty accurate. Blame Tag says, there's a lot of dildos at my store, mostly in management, which is
Yep.
hilarious. Karen asked, her question was, how are the prices? Are they as crazy as what Goodwill here has done? So, Goodwill, just for context, has number one, they have an online auction site. Okay.
Hmm.
So, for a long time, if you were searching for, like, say, retro video games, You go into a Goodwill and get all sorts of shit for like next to nothing. I mean, right? But they got smart, and I'm a musician as well. And I have seen like vintage guitars that have been donated from some kind of like estate sale or whatnot going for like thousands of dollars. But so when they did that, they also started jacking up the kind of the prices in the store. So let me ask you, say a dining room table that is in immaculate condition with 4 chairs. Like what
Mhm.
would that run there?
In US dollars, it would run if it's in demand, it would run somewhere about $300.
Wow, really?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So like it like well the furniture kind of side of things is very volatile because it you can only have like 60, 70 pieces on the shop floor at a time. So, you're relying on those donations. There isn't really most stores can't afford a warehouse to store this stuff in,
Right.
so well, the other thing too is that it's no different to a lot of other retail settings that you have to it's not that you have targets, but like you have to try and extract the maximum value you can get out of whatever the donations are. It just makes sense. And to be honest with you, I don't really worry too much about the price. I just sort of let I just let it sort of adjust itself. Like for example, if we put $300 on a table and in 2 weeks time we're still staring at it, we got the price wrong, and then we just adjust it down until it sells. So it just sort of there's a natural flow there. I'm familiar with Goodwill. I've been to Goodwill. And but like there are no two Goodwills the same. It's the same in most thrift stores. That's one of the unique things about them, is that they're all a little bit different, even if they have the same branding.
Yeah, and that's something here too. I mean, not all Goodwills are created equal at all,
Mm.
and even after they started, the online stuff, you could still go to certain other Goodwills and find shit that they weren't put online that they probably should. Um, Karen asked, "Have you seen much in the way of film cameras come through?" Yes, she's a film camera nut.
Not too much, no. Like in every now and again, you will get inundated with like someone will donate like probably a truckload of stuff that they've cleared out of someone's house, and there could be all sort like it might be 30 years since someone has done a clear out, and sometimes you find some interesting things in that. But no, I wouldn't say there would be that. I haven't seen that many film cameras come in, to be honest with you. No.
Wow. Um, Greyhawk Ravenous says some Goodwills are just over glorified like yard sales. Yes, that is correct.
Hmm.
Proto Rage, good to see you. Um, Proto says, "Oh yeah, it's ridiculous how much the markup is out there at Goodwill for old consoles. You're paying collector prices for no promise if it works or not. That's true. That's true. So let me ask you, Irish. In the locations you work in, do you get a lot of electronic merchandise in?
As a matter of fact, the store I work for, we're not. Our policy is not to actually sell electronics. The reason
Oh,
being, if you were to buy an electronic device off me, go home, plug it in, and your house burns down, now we've got a problem.
oh, okay.
Uh, so that's their logic behind it. So it's not the law here or anything. It's just their own policy. So there are plenty of thrift stores in Ireland that would sell electrics and no problem. And we do get offered an awful lot of stuff, but we have to turn most of it away.
Okay, so I have to ask. Has there ever been anything offered to you there that you couldn't sell that you went out in the parking lot and you bought?
Uh,
Don't lie.
Let me try to think. The monitor I'm looking at right now. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Karen also asked, do you have to reject things like safety seats for kids? They're supposed to get tossed away here. In
Yeah.
parentheses, her ex used to manage a thrift store.
Oh, very interesting. Yes, anything that is deemed a safety device, you just can't stand over the safety. So, for example, bicycles because they've got brakes, or car seats. It makes sense because, like, for one, there's not a great demand for secondhand car seats in any event. Most people are getting rid of them as opposed to, some things are just like the demand isn't there for the amount of donations that you get. But
Right.
also, like, you just don't want to take the risk sometimes in certain things, especially safety gear with children. Like, it's just it's not a good idea to take a risk on that one for a couple of bucks. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that all thrift stores should be like if somebody brings a car seat in, you just toss it.
yeah, and the thing is, like, our like, we get, let's see, about approximately 50% of all donations are not fit for sale, so clothing and everything else. So we have to process that, and then we recycle that then to different companies that turn it into whatever, or they ship it on to the third world or that kind of thing. So there, it doesn't go to waste. We still get something out of it. But when it comes to things like car seats, they just take up room in your garbage.
So, as far as like you were just talking about donations that you can't sell. So, do you
Mhm.
guys send that off somewhere?
Yes. So there's a number of different companies that we can use that will buy it in bulk off us, like per ton, and then they do with it whatever they please. They process it a second time, and they probably ship some of it off to markets in overseas, and they would recycle, like, some of the stuff. If you actually have the means to process stuff, it can be made into other things, like a lot of if it's cotton, for example, is very useful, things like that. So there's a clothing is not actually, there's always a way of doing something else with it. It's actually not so bad in terms of, don't feel bad about donating clothing, in other words.
Right. All right. So, go to the chat here. Adria says in Seattle, certain Goodwill stores focus on certain product types. One is great for women's clothing. Another is great for high quality cookware. They tend to specialize. So, does that happen where you're at, or is it kind of
Yep.
carte blanche?
No, it sort of happens through osmosis, to be honest with you. Like, usually it's if the manager has a particular interest or an eye in cookware or something like that, that they might focus on that and merchandise it really well and just become known. Like, in my stores, I did that with books, for example. So, like, we have a very busy bookstore attached to our stores, and it just sort of happens through osmosis, and you kind of you get known for a certain thing, and then that just becomes a significant part of the business. So I'm not surprised at all by that. It's just natural.
So, as far as that goes, let me ask you about some inner workings there at the
Mhm.
thrift store. I mean, you obviously have a payroll budget. Is it based on sales?
Uh, Loosely. It's based on a lot of different things. A lot of it is kind of it's the secondary work that gets done in the stores as well. Like, there's a lot of community outreach stuff. So, but in all honesty, it's like, at the end of the day, it is like other retail. Like, if you're not making your budgets, if you can't cut the mustard, then you're going to get cutbacks. You're going to get, it's rare that a store will close down, but it can happen. But yeah, it is. Generally speaking, it would be based. It wouldn't be as cutthroat now as big box retail,
Right.
but it's there.
So, in your location, when you get do you get donations there, or is there
Mhm.
a donation drop off somewhere else that it gets brought to you?
We get donations directly to ourselves. So, like, Joe Public will come and donate directly to us. Now, there's nothing stopping us doing it the other way, but we just so happen to get more than enough, so we don't need to outreach to other sources. But there's plenty of thrift stores that would do that.
So, all right. So, a bunch of stuff gets dropped off to you. Do you have to process it in house or send it somewhere else?
In-house.
All right. So, if you're getting clothing and whatnot, all that stuff's getting cleaned and washed there, right?
Yeah, generally speaking, now, to be honest, if it needs to be cleaned, it's just probably not fit for sale. because there's labor and time and everything else involved in cleaning. So it would have to be a very high end item to be to be worth the trouble. To be honest with you, so generally speaking, we like a lot of people are good enough to have it cleaned already or not used at all. Like
Right.
you'd be surprised by how many brand new things with tags on it for a couple of hundred. You'd be surprised how much of it is there. But yes, it's all in house, and it's done like 10 feet away, just above people's heads in a room upstairs.
So you have like washing machines and dryers there at your location to process the clothing.
We do, well, like I said, and we have a steamer is kind of very handy as well because it's useful. But generally speaking, we would try not use them too much because we focus on the stuff that's already that has already been washed,
Right.
um, which is usually obvious, to be honest.
Wow. Now, do you guys have a process like, you have to use a certain kind of detergent, you got to use a certain kind of like fabric softener or whatnot if you wind up having to clean the clothes?
No, that's to be honest, my discretion really, and it's whatever's on sale. So.
Oh, okay, cool enough. Blame Tag asked, do you guys do Halloween? And if so, is there an increase in business for Halloween costume stuff?
Uh, yes, Halloween's in general is quite big in Ireland, and yeah, every store would do Halloween. Unfortunately, the donations for Halloween can be quite sparse at times because obviously you would get the donations off your Halloween stuff immediately after Halloween, so you have to store them for like the best part of 11 months before they were useful to you. So that can be troublesome. And also, I'm sure it's the same over in the States. Halloween items, generally speaking, are disposable. So people buy it and they're expected to wear it for one night, so that the quality is rarely there. So often when we do get them, if there's been worn, it's usually crap. So we do get we do have a Halloween section, and we try to meet the demand. We usually don't get there because again, we can't. It's not like we can order stuff.
Gotcha. All right. So Greyhawk said, and this is kind of just, based on your experience. Do you think it's smarter money wise to buy at Goodwill or buy something on consignment?
Well, I think it's probably smarter because to shop in thrift stores because I wasn't honestly, I had this image of thrift stores when I kind of was applying for the job of, oh God, it's those dingy places that just smell strange and like that's their merchandise really badly and everything else. But then I started, and it's actually I was amazed by the quality of stuff that's there, and we have a number of customers like that will come in sometimes twice, three times a day, and they're just bargain hunters. They're just constantly looking out for, and they get it. We have a couple of people that run Etsy stores just on the stuff that they buy from us.
Right. Well, and that's something that, like I said, all Goodwills aren't created equal, but uh, we had a comment here. Mel, some of Goodwills around here are actually kind of expensive compared to other shops. Yeah, and that's something that's happening, and it's kind of taking away from what a thrift store is. And here in the States, one of the big arguments is that Goodwill, I mean, face it, their inventory's free, right? So they're not paying anything for their inventory. But now, even though that's the case, they're starting to jack prices up. And I get it. I mean, I understand. But Goodwill's not the value that it used to be. And, so on that, Hero asked, how do you guys determine what price you're going to sell it for?
Honestly, it's just market demand. Like I said, it's some people try to like overcomplicate this and over engineer this. It really is it's as simple as after a while you kind of get to know more or less what something might sell for in your particular area.
Right.
But like I said, you put it at a price you think is good value for biggest value you can get for it. But then after a couple of days, if you're still looking at it, you got it wrong. So you just like so we have a fairly aggressive reduce to clear program. So I don't like looking at the same thing every day. So I just I make sure that if it's still there after a number of days, we reduce it and get it out. So the value is there in the sense that there's about 30% of my store is always on sale. Every day. So but I mean. At the same time, you have to remember it is retail, and retail is they're under no obligation to give the customer value. They're under obligation to make the store money. That is the nature of the beast. Thrift
Right.
stores that they're not really any different. Like they are at the end of the day, they're it's a retail setting, and they have a boss, they have a board of directors most likely, and don't forget they have a cause. I mean, yeah, Goodwill is the biggest probably in the States, but I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of different types of thrift stores out there, and some of them are raising for a really good cause, and some of them are not. Some of them
Right.
I would walk right by, but so I would look. Let me put you this way: do you want to make the Walmart family richer, or do you want to support a good cause? If you have $20, where are you going to spend it?
Well, I mean, that's a good point. But I think what we're seeing now, especially here in the States, especially with Goodwill, is we're gouging. Stuff that they would have sold for $3 2 years ago, now they're selling it for 10. And I get it. And it wouldn't be bothersome if I didn't realize that, hey, their inventory's free. And there was a comment in here. Hybrid Hooligan said, thrift stores know they're part of pop culture now, and they're taking advantage of it. And I 100% agree with that, because you have all these, and there's a social media thing that goes along with all this stuff. You got like these social media influencers shopping on Instagram and YouTube and whatnot, and they're going to thrift stores. And you see it a lot, especially in like musical instruments, and I'll get to that in a second. But anyway, because it's become part of this social media lexicon, the thrift stores are taking advantage of that. And they're just as guilty as big box retailers and different, companies increasing prices for profit. And to that point, from a musical instrument standpoint, there's a few YouTubers I watch that are actually quite influential. And they'll do a video on some guitar they bought that came from China that was like $149. And the guitar is great. I mean, the manufacturing's fine, the instrument's perfect, right? But once they make that video, the stores immediately jack their prices up $100. So, with thrift stores becoming part of the influencer thing, do you feel like these companies are selling products, at a price that's a little higher than it should be?
Um, I don't know because I think that they're probably just trying to take advantage of any trend that's out there for to be honest, and they would in a way they'd be fools not to. It's market demand that the stores would operate on. And look, if influencers are pushing more people towards the thrift stores, I'm not really surprised that the kind of the more that the retro and vintage stuff has been jacked up in price, because they've probably tried to see if they can, and it works. So in that sense, it's no better or worse than any other retail stores out there. Um, but they probably are jacking up prices, but that's
But here's
very.
the thing. Here's the thing with that. If we're talking about regular retail, and we're talking about, cost for an item versus what you sell it. Okay, cool. But we're talking about a business that its entire sales stream comes from product they never had to pay for. So do you think it would be more advantageous for those businesses who get product in at no cost to be on the lower end of the spectrum in hopes of making big money in volume?
Yeah, I mean, there are stores that do that, and that makes a lot of sense. And I would think that most of the thrift stores here would kind of lean more that way. To be honest with you, because of the volume of stuff that we get it can be astronomical. So it kind of makes sense not to try and sell only 5% of it at a jacked up price. But generally speaking, it would make sense to do exactly what you just said there.
Right.
There's a couple that might be more boutiquey.
What we're seeing here in the States is no, they're gouging it. And, it's to me, from a regulatory standpoint, somebody needs to step in and say, hey, look, you have no cost, you have no overhead for this merchandise you're selling. So what gives you the right to sell it like overinflated prices? Now, if the prices are based on market value, which I can tell you in Goodwill right now is not, there's got to be some sort of talk about how, hey, look, the market value, and obviously we all know, something is only worth what somebody will pay for, right? So, but now we have thrift stores in the U.S. running right along with the price gouging with regular retailers, and it's off the chain.
Yeah, that it's probably because they in the instances where that happens, it might be because they've taken the leaf out of the book of retail.
Yeah.
It's because a lot of people with a retail background have begun to take on, I presume, senior management positions in there, and I'm not really surprised. I mean, thrift stores can still be amazing places in the sense that like you can literally find almost anything there. There's a bit of there's something kind of magical about that nearly. But it is disappointing. No, I have seen them in every condition. I've seen ones that just the merchandising is just basically a pile of clothes on the floor, and I've seen ones that would rival some of the best merchandising out there. Now, I kind of, I don't know. I do think, generally speaking, because of the volumes that we typically get here, that it makes more sense to lean more, not quite the stack it high, sell it cheap, but to try and get the biggest slice of the market out there. So, like the price points in my clothing store, for example, would the average transaction value, I think, is about $8 or €8, so but $10 say ish. So like that's the average sale. That could be 2 or 3 items in that.
Right.
Now you wouldn't, if you try to take $10 and go to a big box store that sells clothing here, you wouldn't get a pair of socks.
Gotcha. All right, so we got to get to the chat because there's some crazy shit going on right now. All right, so
I see that.
yeah, so Blame Tag said Irish, cottage pie or shepherd's pie.
I prefer cottage pie.
Okay, cottage pie. So then becomes a debate. What is cottage pie?
Cottage is beef and shepherd's is lambs.
Oh, okay. There you go. Fantastic. So cottage is beef, which Steve would eat, and shepherd's is lamb, which Steve would not eat. All right. So we've got the hard-hitting questions now, Irish.
All right, good.
Hero said, "It's pie that you eat in your cottage." Okay, that's educated. I love her. Let's see here. What else we got? A hero said shepherd's pie you eat out in the field, I think.
Yeah,
um,
why not?
Mel says I eat shepherd's pie with beef in my RV all the time. And then Proto's like, don't be dying on us. So yeah, let's talk about oh, no, food. Is Mrs. Irish close around at the moment?
No.
Buffalo Bills
She's
football.
oh yeah. My God, they oh they really are if you are loyal to that team, that they break your heart. I mean, they keep you on the edge of your seat stuff. I mean, they just about survived Miami. Miami are like the last seed as well. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But hey, but yeah, no, she's. I mean, being from my wife is from Buffalo. In case anyone doesn't twig that, yeah, she's like they're all fanatical Bills
Right.
fans there. It's just no one is a little bit of a Bills fan. It's you're fanatical or not. That's
So I
it.
have to ask you, was she watching the game when the player got knocked out and almost died?
She was following it on her phone. Like we have real difficulty getting the streams to work over here because we can't just tune into the US TV.
Right.
But yeah, that was it. Hamlin, is that his name?
Hamlin, yes.
Yeah, yeah, that was. I mean, and I watched that tackle. There was nothing in that.
Oh,
That was just pure. Well, one of these things.
speaking of what you just said, I'm going to send you a web link. Actually, I'll put
All
it
right.
here in the stream. I don't care. Um, this link right here, I think, should work. Um, if not, after the stream, I will send you what I've got bookmarked. You can watch any football game you ever want to watch.
All right, I will exploit that.
Yes. So, um, so yeah, so cool. And but I gotta say, I mean, I grew up a Dallas Cowboys fan, and I haven't been following the Cowboys for a while because I hate Jerry Jones, and I think what he did to the team is terrible. But let's talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is what we call here Clemson South, because we have Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne, both from Clemson on that team. So watch out, Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, look, Buffalo, they're one. I mean, they've been to four Super Bowls and they haven't won it yet. I mean, their luck has to change sometime. They had a great run in the '90s, and they just, they. It would be great to see because it's a city that needs it too.
Yeah, well, I mean, your wife obviously is a wonderful human being, but just tell her that Troy Aikman says hello.
Yeah. Well,
Blame
she okay.
blame tag says go Bucks. But anyway, you know, Irish. So what are you seeing over there right now, retail wise, that should be something we should be looking for here? Are you seeing things spike over there? Like, for instance, here in the States, eggs are like off the chain expensive. How are your eggs doing over there?
Just fine, to be honest with you. I was just I did see a couple of articles about that in the States. I don't really fully understand it, to be honest. But
Like US
yeah.
dollars for a dozen eggs, how much are you guys paying?
Oh, US dollars.
Just,
Maybe about five.
really?
Yeah,
Five for a dozen eggs?
about that. Yeah.
Oh wow, well it's actually cheaper versus here, even though it's went way up. We're at like 4.19 for a dozen. Which is crazy. I mean, these are eggs. I don't. I know you follow a lot as far as what happens on in the states and like retail and whatnot, but man, they are pricing us out of life over here at the moment.
Yeah, well, the biggest difficulties we have has been fuel related. So it's heating fuel, gas for the car, anything to do with fuel. And of course, that just has knock-on effects for everything because everything is delivered.
Right.
Um, so the inflation has been driven largely by that. We also have a huge housing crisis here at the moment, which is rents are just out of control. So that's kind of eating into people's uh, what's left of their disposable income. But no, like in terms, like I don't know how much of the problems here from a food point of view would translate into the States because there wouldn't be a huge amount of crossover. I imagine that you're fairly self-sufficient, and so are we. We're just too far apart for that. Um, I don't know. In terms of, I think there's been, generally speaking, like there's been a lot of laws passed in the last couple of years that have been favorable to workers in general that I think you guys are a little bit behind on. Um,
Oh, well, of course
you
we
know,
are, and especially if it's helping workers.
yeah, like I think one of the biggest ones I think I talked about, well, when this first started, when this podcast first started, was redundancy. I don't
Yes,
know if yeah that I don't know if that concept exists in the States. That's a huge one that we've had for
it
a long
doesn't.
time.
It does not use here. That's not something
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, well, look, for anyone that doesn't know, essentially, there's an acknowledgement in Irish law that, like, if you work for a place for a significant period of time, that if you are to be made redundant, not fired now, but if the place just goes out of business, that they owe you for the time you put in. So you would get like some kind of a severance package,
Right.
and that's in law it's 2 weeks per year, you know. So after 10 years, it's what, 20 weeks.
Yeah.
So it could be reasonable, substantial if something like that happens. But things like that, there's the right to disconnect. Now that was an EU law, but like that's a big one. So your employer can't contact you outside of your normal working hours, but for like exceptional circumstances. Now that was a culture shock for me when that came in. That's relatively new, but I mean I'm just used to being on call just all the time,
Right.
and answering emails at ridiculous,
That's
you know.
because you took the keys.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm the architect of my own misfortune. I'm I mean, I had
Aren't
I
we
you
all?
know, yeah, But here's the thing, right? Like, I mean, obviously we are talking about this because of the woes of retail. But here's the kind of fucked up thing: is it's that, like, when it works, I really like it. Like, when you get a great team behind you and you get through a day and you get through, like, be it unpacking a truck or just like getting slammed out of it, it's really the team that makes it for me. Like, when you have something that just fires on all cylinders and you have each other's backs, there's just nothing better. I don't know if there's any comparison to, like, like you're a musician, like, so, like, to a band or something like that. Is that when everyone is just doing what they do best and it works, it's just brilliant.
You're 100% correct, because I will still say to this day that the crew I had at the very first Jesus craft store I worked at was immaculate. You couldn't ask for a better crew, because it was just like, okay, you see that over there? Kill. And they would just go. And it was an amazing thing. So you're 100% correct in that. When you have that kind of staff, that everything is flawless, it makes the job something amazing, because you don't have to worry about anything. You just have people, you just point and be like, go do this and go do that, go do that. Boom. It's all taken care of.
Yeah, and then a lot of the problems that we have encountered, like, the reasons that doesn't work or you can't get to that point, a lot of it is because of, like, the kind of the corporate do not understand that concept, so they're constantly looking for you to cut payroll, which of course pisses everyone off. And
Right.
or they just I don't know, they just get in the way. I mean, it's really weird, but, like, less management is more sometimes. Just get away, let us do our thing at our best and we'll produce the results. If you try and micromanage us to within an inch of our lives, it just, like, we're human beings, we're not robots, like, I mean,
And well,
it's
to your point, real quick, in the chat, Greyhawk said, oh, it just bounced down. Let me find it. Um, the Greyhawk said, I've said for years that workers don't quit job, they quit managers.
Yeah,
And,
I mean that's true.
yeah, it's 100% true. If you're a shitty manager, you're going to lose good people because they're sick of dealing with you. And there was also something else in the chat I wanted to bring out. Let me see here. I got to scroll. As far as eggs go, real quick, I want to throw this out there. There was a report, and I believe it was the Wall Street Journal. The company that's responsible for most of the eggs in the United States, which includes like Eggland's Best and includes a bunch of private label, bragged about the fact that they jumped their prices up to raise their profits, even versus cost. So, yeah, this is what's going on here. And this stuff's going on over here unchecked. Nobody's doing anything about it, but we're paying almost $5 for a dozen eggs. Like shit, what was it? 2 years ago, a dozen eggs was like $1.29.
Just out of interest, would that be battery hens or
Would that be what?
would that be free range eggs?
No, just regular run of the mill.
Yeah, like 99% of the ones over here would be free range, so it's that might explain some of the price difference. So.
Yeah, so I mean it's crazy, and I think all across the world everybody's experiencing some sort of price increase in things, and the problem is nobody's putting their head in there saying, "Hey, wait a minute, this isn't right." And until the governments of the world decide, "Hey, you're gouging people and you need to pull it back," it's going to continue. It's terrible. I mean, it's absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I mean, and like I mean, during things like well, first of all, there was COVID, the pandemic, and then there was the inflation, what we're in now, whatever you want to call that. But the strange thing is like it's been presented as if it's a crisis. Well, if it was a crisis, wouldn't they be losing money?
Oh no, well, here's the thing.
Here in the States, it's strange.
Here in the States, there's a phrase: "Never let a good crisis go to waste."
Yeah.
And that's what's happening. And here's the thing, and this kind of ties into war zone stuff and whatnot. But you've got people out there who have just accepted the fact that prices have went up. Oh, it's just the way it is. They don't like it, but they don't complain forcefully about it. They just get their stuff and move on. But those same people will fucking blow a gasket if they start talking about raising the minimum wage to like double digits. Like, oh, everything's going to be more expensive if they do that. What are you paying for now?
Yeah, that's some look. That I straight up don't understand that to a certain degree. I mean, I know why it happens. I know I'm I don't want to break any war zone rules here, but it's just it's divisive as stuff, and it's misinformation. Like for example, I think if it's in Washington D.C., that's minimum wage like $15 an hour. Isn't that right? Something like that. Mm-hmm. And like one of the things I keep, I like the Big Mac index. Is a really, really good index.
It is a good index, yes.
So, I mean, the Big Mac there is, I think, also the most expensive in the States, but by a couple of cents. It's not like you're paying $15, $30 for a Big Mac, So a state that's still paying someone like $8 an hour, it is, the Big Mac there might be, 30 cents cheaper or something like that. So, and those things are pretty well documented. Like, so there's really no actual there's no integrity to that argument. It's absolute nonsense. Like the minimum wage drives inflation. That is a fact, not to the degree that it's going to collapse society. Correct. Like they're pretending it will.
Well, I mean, the big thing with it right now is here in the States, it's a runaway freight train of businesses raising prices and no one's stopping them. And now we're getting to the point where corporations are starting to brag about it. And it has nothing to do with wages, has nothing to do with any of that mess. And they're just basically out here saying, hey, yeah, we decided we're going to charge you $1 more because we want to, and you bought it, and it's okay. And you got minimum wage workers not making any more money while these companies are just fucking draining everybody. And, when you finally have companies come out and start saying that this is what they're doing and nothing gets done about it, that tells you where we're at.
Yeah, I think one of the strange things about I think the States is very pronounced, is that a lot of anger is kind of misguided, so like that, if there's a hint or a gesture that somebody working in, in a retail outlet deserves to be paid adequately for their work, that just provokes them. Whereas they don't see the real drivers of inflation. Honestly, at the end of the day, it is greed.
It is.
It's you can call it, you can blame it on, there's lots of factors, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of it's avoidable. It's greed, it's gouging, and you know what? It's gouging people that don't have an awful lot of money to begin with, for the most part.
Correct. And it's like Adria just said, a lot of minimum wage workers where she's at get their food at the food bank. Think about that for a minute. But yet the companies
Yeah.
that are producing eggs are getting double and triple profits. I mean, and it's a problem. And the media and the business industry has brainwashed the general public into thinking that increasing wages make them pay more. Yet here they are paying more and the wages didn't increase.
Yeah, I don't even know how that argument still holds water when it's like, when I mean, the States is big enough that you have, very different minimum wages, and the same products do not sell for twice as much in one place versus another. It's a bit odd. I don't know, like, it's the argument over here, like the minimum wage here is bad.
Yeah,
Not
but it's
you know,
higher than here, right?
it is higher. Like, proportionately, it's still better off here than over there.
In US
I think
dollars, what's your
yeah,
minimum wage there?
in US dollar, it would be close to $12.
All right, so in US dollars, your minimum wage in Ireland is $12.
Hmm.
Whereas here in the leaders of the free world, the minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour. Hey,
Yeah, look,
Cranky, good to
it's
see you.
insane.
Welcome.
Yeah, it's oh, hello, Cranky. Yeah, it is. It's insane that in that was since 2009 that it has not been increased. Now, it's just like there. I mean, nobody can but acknowledge that since 2009, that a natural level of inflation is enough. I mean, if it's 2% a year, I mean, that's close.
Well,
How
I
long is it
still
going at?
stick with what we learned with the fact that minimum wage started out at 25 cents an hour in 83 years. It's only went up $7 in 83 years.
Yeah, I mean, it was Roosevelt that brought it in. Is that right?
Yeah, Roosevelt. Yes.
Yeah. So, but the other thing too is that when he did that, the purpose of it is that it could support a family. That
Correct.
was the purpose. So, like, that's the real measure. Like, how much would you need for a 40-hour week to run a household now? And yes, the quality of life has increased as well. There's no question about that. Like, we have things now that would be, a pipe dream back then. But at the same time, the concept behind it was kind of a social floor where no one would go underneath that.
Right.
And if you were to adjust that for today, it would just, 15 isn't enough. I mean, it'd be more than that for sure.
Well, I want to throw this out here real quick. For those of you, as you hear the minimum wage talk, if you go to our YouTube page, go to the Retail War Zone on YouTube, I posted a video about the minimum wage, and I had some idiot reply that, if you don't have any marketable skills, then that's what you get is minimum wage. Go light him up, because the amount of people who don't understand that when the minimum wage was created, it was created to be a livable wage. Man, people are lost. They have no clue what it was supposed to be. And all these people ever equate it with is things being more expensive for them. The minimum wage was always supposed to be a livable wage from inception. So go to the Retail Warzone YouTube page and go to the section of shorts. Look up the video, minimum wage again, light them up. And yes,
Yeah,
Adria, all work is skilled work.
it is, and you know what? I don't care if it isn't. Like we're humans, and like someone should have a basic standard of living. And if you happen to be someone that perhaps doesn't possess a huge amount of skill, why are we punishing that person? Like, I mean,
Right.
like I mean, look, it's all about effort for me. If someone look, I think we've mentioned it before. If someone is making an effort working with me, I'm happy. I'll find something that suits them the best. It would have to be pretty extreme for me not to do that. That's the way I treat people. It's all about the team, and like I understand that not everyone comes with the same skill set. I understand that not everyone comes with the same kind of background or perhaps even privileges in the past, and everybody deserves a place somewhere on this blue ball we call planet Earth. Like I don't see why we should just like ostracize somebody and pay them less.
Hey, Irish, we got a great statement here, and we're going to end the stream on this one.
All right.
Greyhawk says, would you disagree that if the minimum wage does increase, that those making a greater amount of it should gain an equal increase? Okay, so here's how I see it. You can't get into the politics of the business in your store. People make what they make, okay? But if the federal government came out and said, hey, the minimum wage is going up by $3. So let's say all of a sudden a minimum wage is $10.25. Yes, to make it fair from a federal standpoint, everybody that is not salaried should go up $3. It sucks. I get it and I understand. But from a legal background, if the government said it went to $10.25 instead of $7.25, everybody should get a $3 bump. And you leave it at that, let the chips fall where they may, and then go from there. Irish, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that any increase should be kind of proportional, across the board, really.
Yes.
I wouldn't try and exclude anyone, but I would say, hopefully in the future, I don't know how you get around doing this. It would be great if instead of a number as a minimum wage, it would be a percentage. So like, it would just be every year it goes up 1%, 2%, 5%, whatever, and that they can change the percentage, at a federal level.
Right.
They could say, instead of it, because inflation is real. Like, I mean, why do we have to fight for a pay increase when it should be obvious that, like, 5 years ago and 10 years ago, prices were not the same. And if so it's the same as a federal, banks. I think it should be a percentage. Anyway, let's get a bit too deep, maybe. Sorry.
Well, no, but I will say this. Inflation is real, but right now the inflation is driven by corporate profits. It's not driven by anything else. And that's the problem here in the States is, sure, inflation is high, but it's high because nobody's keeping anybody in check. So everybody's paying at this point. But anyway, Irish, we're sitting at an hour 5. What I want to do is, as we close this out, give us a closing statement. Whatever you want to say about anything at all. Your floor.
All right. Well, I hope that the Buffalo Bills win the Super Bowl.
Ooh. And make for a happy house if they do.
Yeah, well, with my house, yeah. Look, though, like from the beginning, when I first started tuning into this, I really think it's a great place for people to get together and kind of just, like for this retail therapy thing, just to actually just vent and feel normal, everything else. And I hope that eventually it just gets enough people kind of tuned in into the right kind of mindset that, like, you're worth more, that you are more than a controllable expense.
Awesome. Very well said. So everybody, we will see you again as far as therapy sessions next Monday. Wednesday, not real sure what I'm doing, but I will tell you by the end of the month, I've got a Dollar Tree manager who's coming on. I've got to get back with her. That has a lot to say, and that's going to be cool. So everybody have a great night. Thank everybody for being here. Just come hang out, say what you want to say, do what you want to do. We'll have more AMAs. We'll get Blame Tag in here, Adria in here, Hero in here, whoever, and we're just going to go. Monday nights is our night to bitch and moan. So thank you for being here, and we will see you next time.